So, the elderly being tased. Like, subscribe, ID in the Discovery Channel. Yes, ID in the Discovery Channel. The links are provided below. Get that Discovery Go app as well as that ID Go app. You might want to get those two things combined to make them into one. So, dear viewers, what do you think of the elderly being tased by police? When and if they act rowdy? What is your what's your thoughts and opinions on, say, finding out elderly individuals are in fact being tased by police officers because they won't submit to the officers, which is the reason for them being tased? Should the elderly be tased at all, or should other forms of methods be used on them during, say, situations like this, as in a elderly individual or various people? Elderly, because see, the mindset, the older you grow, is to say the mindset is going to evolve. Some people in fact become senile, which is why they don't submit to police officers. What should in fact be done? So, Oklahoma, Deborah Hamel, age 65 years of age, was pulled over by officers for a tail light in which was broken, and she became rowdy. She's older, and yet she became somewhat erratic, rowdy, when an officer proceeded to give her a ticket. Her actions included non-submission, which led to her being tased. To not listen to officers is in fact, it leads to that, and yet there's in fact officers that wouldn't go that far because of her age. You have some officers that in fact fear, despite them being officers. Some officers would have in fact, with this woman, say, acting out and stuff, being 65 years old, there's in fact officers that, say, would care just enough not to tase her, because to do such practices is to say she could have gotten killed, right? But not everybody thinks that way. And then, too, going by the book, laws and everything else is to do what you've been trained on duty, yes, to do with that. So that's why I asked, what's your thoughts and opinions? Leave it in the comment section below, dear viewers. She wouldn't accept a ticket of $80, and she could be witnessed on video full of yelling and antics directed at officers. Oops, I'm sorry. Excuse me, pardon me. Directed at officers, she was yelling, letting them know she wasn't interested in basically doing anything, right? So she provided answers on when it comes to her tail light, because see, all of this has to do with the tail light being pulled over and all the rest, right? The answers on the tail light being blown out for 6 months. That's what she stated. It was out. Her tail light was in fact out for 6 months, right? She asked the officers, why didn't they just give her a warning in place of a ticket? That's what she asked. Why didn't they just give her a warning in place of a ticket? The officer felt she was to blame, as he told her that he refused to give her a warning if she already knew her tail light was blown out. He basically felt no sympathy or anything with that, letting her know that it was your responsibility, as in you knew. You had the awareness and the mind enough there to know. It wasn't like you were, say, an elderly individual that was unaware, because see, there's many people her age that drive around and they're unaware to their own vehicle, as in even the vehicle needing a tune-up. Many older adults, some people at that age, 65, don't like being called the elderly, right? However you feel with that, right? But there are in fact individuals her age, 65 years of age, that oftentimes they don't have the full mental capacity, as in the capabilities, to see that when my tail light is blown out. Many more than, once again, I said, oftentimes don't know that their vehicle needs a oil change, or the tire is half flat, right? There's all sort of things with that. that can pose problems, I'm saying, out in traffic, right? And yet with the officer, he felt that she knew. So if you knew, why didn't you have it changed the bulb? You do in fact have elderly people, that's even young people, that put things off. Well, I'll get to it. And then the next time you get in the car, you say once again, I'll get to it. And then you still don't get to it. And then here's 3-4 months from now and you're saying, well, I'll get to it, because everybody's prone to be lazy. Like, you really don't want to take it there, despite it just being, it's efficient to say, well, let me just drive over here to dealership or wherever to get it changed, the bulb, whatever, right? And yet some people, they just don't have it in them for whatever reason, because to have a lot of things going on is to say, right? But who's to say with her? Some people work jobs or have other life things that's going on, right, where they just don't feel like it. I don't really feel like it, I'll get to it later, right? Which is how stuff leads into situations as hers, but not this bad or not worse, hopefully, as in even being tased to death. There's many of us who have been pulled over for a tail light being blown out, myself included, where was 2 officers in the vehicle in the middle of the night that followed me out, on a country road, right? It was raining and everything else. They ended up stopping me and let me know. I kind of went off because I had an attitude about something else, right? You don't really want to be crossing line with that, right? But they didn't put their hands on me. They didn't whatever, right? I just let them know, look, I'm not feeling whatever, so whatever, right? But with her, she kind of took it beyond herself, because I'm thinking because of her age being 65, she probably felt the officer should have had more respect for her because of her age. Does that make sense? To be 65 years old, and despite you not saying submitting to officers, many older individuals feel that there should be a level of respect by police officers. Remember, many of them, in fact, doing arrest and all the rest, stopping, chasing people. Many of those officers are, in fact, young, which could be too more the reason why she acted out and ended up tased. Because if I'm 65, it's to say, well, I paid my dues to society, right? My tail light is out. I really am not interested in what you have to say. You should, in fact, issue me the warning and let me go. Let that be that, because of my age. A lot of older individuals, in fact, feel that way, right? It can point in various directions with this. So when asked to step out the vehicle, so let me go back. When it comes to her not wanting to take the ticket and her going off on the officer, you see in the photo, and her being mad about her not being issued a warning in place of the ticket, she went on saying that she once again felt she did not deserve to pay anything over the tail light being broken. And I'm once again calling that out. It has to be a age thing. Age discrimination is in fact real, as in that's not me saying that's what the officer was doing. That's not that. But more than likely in that woman's mind, because of her age, that's more than likely how she looked at the situation. I'm older. Take me for what I am. I'm older. I'm a much older woman than you, so you should in fact be respecting me by just issuing me a warning, right? But at the same time, that's to ask, or that's to even say who's to say, because some individuals in fact have entitlement issues where they just feel that they shouldn't pay anything at all, despite age. I'm saying you do have people that should be respected because they're 65 and older, right? But there's 2 individuals of that age and even younger that have entitlement issues of I'm not doing anything, I'm not going to listen to what you say, I'm not this and that, right? Could have been one of those situations, but more and more I look at her age more than anything. So she would not sign the ticket as told to do so by officers. When asked to step out of her vehicle, she refused that as well by being told she was under arrest. That don't even make sense. Dear Discovery, that's a call out. It's a shout out. All right. When asked to step out of her vehicle, she refused that as well. All of that took place, yes, during the your being arrested, right? So she did not accept that she was under arrest. She didn't accept anything because she probably felt like she shouldn't have been there from the beginning in this situation, because there's a lot of factors which go into this where people don't even begin to understand, because there's race factors. A black male or black female, a lot of times they would have died in a situation like this. Is real, right? Acting all wild and crazy with officers, right, despite the age, right? She got to live to see through what, even that she got a free pass on that, right? But there's so many, there's so much to be said, and yet not enough time on the camera, right? To not accept what police is saying is to lead to death. To not accept the fact that you are under arrest can lead to death as an opposing problems, because see, there's just as much as whites that are being killed by officers as there are blacks, and not too many people know that. You can search up on even YouTube. See, when we're in the digital age full of globes and all the rest, right, where before you didn't really see that sort of thing on CNN, the percentage of whites being killed by the hands of white police officers, white people themselves being killed by white police officers, is happening just as much as blacks being killed by officers. And it's in fact online where it's available, whereas before that sort of thing wasn't shown. Yeah, on a whole grand whole, right? She drove away from the scene after locking her car doors and rolling up the windows. She was then chased by officers. The same scenario played out again. She was stopped as officers demanded her out of the vehicle. Body cam holds the proof of what took place, what all occurred, which is good. The body cam. See, not everybody agrees with body cams being available. They feel that it shows too much. Many people feel that there's a privacy issue with that, right? And yet I would never want to say, well, no, let's get rid of the body cams. No, they should in fact be there. Because see, all races and not just one are in fact being killed by officers, despite even if it was guilt on the end of the victim or the person that was acting wild and crazy or rowdy, right? Body and cams need to stick and stay and be stuck with that. That dash cam, body cam, and all the rest, right? That serves its purpose, is saving lives, right? The officer pushed her to the ground before handcuffing her again. Such occurred based upon her refusal to submit, as well as with the incident. She tried to kick him in the groin area. You want to be careful being that old, much older. There's people with all type of backgrounds. You don't know family history on her own end. Striking out on police despite her, having that broken tail light, right? Because see, people have been known to get locked up in mental facilities with stuff like that. Kicking a officer in the groin. That's like a form of harassment in a sense. When you really think about it, no words involved, right? Just my own, right? But the officer aimed his taser at her, fired the taser, and then handcuffed her. The officer aimed his taser at her, fired the taser, and then handcuffed her. She felt they didn't have a specified reason to tase her, as the officer followed by saying he did have proper reason to tase her. She failed to cooperate was why this whole situation, everything else played out, because she didn't cooperate, right? It could have been much more worse. And it's nothing worse than, say, your family member, especially being 65 years old, right, being tased to death on camera for all to see, and then it plays out on CNN or, yeah, everywhere. Discovery, hello. Discovery as well. Family members sue police departments when lives are taken in that way, right? Which is why you kind of want to keep your hands to yourself and not going for the groin. It's too much going on. It's laughable because that's what's funny. It has a comical effect to it. For the simple fact of a 65-year, just think about that. If you're walking, consider this. I'm walking past a TV screen. Think of this way back in the 80s or something like that. I'm walking past a TV screen, an old school TV floor model back in 1986, right? And I hear on the news, on the evening, yes, news, a 65-year-old woman kicks a police officer in the groin. What would your reaction be as you walking past the TV? Would you in fact stop in your tracks or keep going? That's what I'm saying. It's the comical effect of that, because see, no 65-year-old should really be kicking an officer in the nuts. The nuts, right? That's what's funny about it, because see, if she was to say be living in some, I was going to say retirement home, nursing home. I was going to say that, but it's the laughter nature on, not on her own end, but it somewhat is, because to be kicking officers is to say, if that woman was in a retirement home or anywhere else, how would she treat the staff? That's funny. That's in fact funny, because if any of them was to say, ma'am, it's time to eat your meal, it's time to eat your pudding or whatever, older folks eat or chew on, even with or without teeth, right? That's to wonder and find out, how would her response be? That is so funny. And it's when I think about that, because she just aimed right for the groin. I'm here for the nuts, and yet no cashews involved, right? That is so funny. The charges in which follow in conclusion result as her being charged with battery, assault, and resisting arrest. An EMS was called at the scene as she was too put under arrest. I read that in reverse. Did you get that? I read it it's out of order. Let's flip it in reverse. An EMS was called at the scene as she was too put under arrest. And also, she was charged with battery, assault, and resisting arrest. August 27th is when she is to appear in court again. She pleaded not guilty at her previous court date. So, do you feel tasing the elderly is the proper way of doing things? And should the tasing go against? Because see, it should be something. It should be some other form or method, because see, even elderly people are known to, yet some of them in fact have devices. Some of them have had heart surgery. It's all type of things that go on with these elderly people, right? If I'm wearing a pacemaker or something like that, consider the science, the level of the sciences, dear Discovery Channel. If I'm an elderly person, because some people, they don't consider this, what I'm about to say, and they don't think this far, which is why we're on the story to begin with. If I'm a older woman and I'm 65 or older, or could be a little bit younger, right? I'll say 60. We stop at that, right? A tipping point with that. What if this individual would have been wearing a pacemaker? These are all electronic devices carrying, yes, voltage and all the rest, right? So if I'm 65 and say I got a pacemaker, in which she didn't, it hasn't been confirmed, I'm just making this one up as an example, but say if I got a pacemaker unit within me, to supply, yes, for me to live and be functional, right? I'm wearing a pacemaker and a officer tases me despite me acting wild and crazy, right? What could the outcome be with that? The likelihood of a tragedy standing awaiting you in that. Being tased with a device in you, such as a pacemaker, because see, to have any type of device within you, this is body, human body, electricity and everything, electrical to electrical, right? It's to say some people, there's no really, how can I word this? Some people carry deficiencies, whereas even there's a timing level in the process of anything being kicked out or off. Did you get that? Because say if you got a pacemaker or something like that, and to be tased too much is to say, well, what stops with that? Because even computerized devices are led by commands. There's a rebooting process of everything that's computerized with that. And I'm thinking more so pacemakers as well, because everything in the form of that, electrical, fully operational, right? It's to say there's once again a restarting process, and yet what if something doesn't fully restart in that after being tased? That's in fact how people die. Now that's not me saying me taking up for her end. That's not me doing that sort of thing. No, it's not. It's just a consideration of where officers might in fact need to be improving. Because see, to know that this woman is 65 is to say there's better ways of getting your hands on her just enough to not have to tase her. No officer, because see, me, even if she was batshit crazy or nutty, I should not be fearful at my age to go and say yes. Not be fumbling with her, but maybe so, right? Because see, that's detrimental to health to be tasing somebody. I just keep seeing it as even that will have some type of long-term damage despite her being in the wrong, right? I'm seeing that because even elderly, the bodily functions is not the same as a younger person. There's going to be some change in even that. So, and me saying that there should be no officer that should be afraid to go get that woman by the hands, the bare hands, and grip her up just like they do grown men. They do it to grown men, which is much more stronger. That's why I'm not understanding. I'm completely not understanding. I'm saying by law standards and everything else, there's certain things, legalities that in fact might need to be changed with even that. But there's better ways to restrain a person, restraining in place of a taser. Remember, tasers shoot in long distance and not up close, right? To be shocked to death. Tasers shoot in long distance, long range, right? And yet why that don't make sense. Why would it take multiple officers to deal with this woman when many of these officers are dealing with grown burly men? Some of them have dealt with heavyweight type of people. Big grown burly type men. Them big old black bears you see. There have in fact been officers that have been forced to grip those individuals. Now, when it comes to law and all the rest with that questionable, well, should we in fact, restrain the elderly, or should we in fact tase them? Law to law, state to state, city to city is all different, right? And yet, it just seems to me it's still with the laws, there's no excuse. Because see, I just can't see it. You want to restrain something like that. If she was to go to a hospital and act, if the woman is 65 and she would have went to the hospital and got the acting sporadic, it wouldn't be no taser on hands. No, them doctors or nurses or whatever, would have been 5 or 6 of them in a pack in a team restraining her. You see where I'm going with this, and not a police officer. And if it was a security guard, it probably would have been 2 security guards restraining this woman and not tasing her even at the hospital. Because even grown people, grown men much younger than her, more healthy and able to stand on their own too, and more than likely would kill a officer. Some of these strong people who are willing to kill officers, in fact, have, right? But many of them have, in fact, been restrained by officers. So I'm just saying, if she would have been at any facility, even going to a hospital, even possibly even in Walmart acting crazy like that, whoever working in there, more likely two individuals, grown men, would have insecurity, would have restrained her. So why couldn't they have restrained her? I'm not getting and understanding. Because see, she can't, at 65, she can't do much more damage than, say, a younger person. That's what I don't understand. The cause and effect is to say, I'm older, I did something wrong, I got to pay the price with that, right? But not really being, say, all over the ground in a tasering measurement, right? Had to think it through. Restraining the elderly. Restraining the elderly. That sounds just about right. I can't think or consider nothing else. There's no point of drugging her or anything like that. That don't even make sense, as in it doesn't even fit, right? But yeah, that's not gonna ever work. That's just not gonna ever work. Because see, if I was a police officer and my mom got to acting all wild and sporadic at that age, I wouldn't want nobody tasing her. Not like that, no. Because see, people have lived through that type of situation, right? I'm saying that it's not all common like that for elderly people to get tased. But you have people that go through situations like that because, look, the end result, once again, can be death. Because you can damage things within the body internally where even the elderly can't see it. Even doctors and nurses can't see it. It's unpronounced, right? And yet some people have been known to go through certain situations, not like this, but different situations, and then say certain things within the body is changed, right? And then say 6 months from now, they go lay and die. They go lay and die. Yeah. Go lay and die because, yeah, you don't, you want to think more wisely with that. That's electricity. We are electrical units as well, right? So, think about that, the tasing and the age where they don't match, right? When it comes, because see, I'm thinking there should even be on hand, if elderly people are going to be all on the rise, getting out of hand, there should be, in fact, restraining devices in the back of the vehicle of police officers. Items, particularly, yes, for the elderly to restrain them. Handcuffs is one. Right? And yet the handcuffs are carried on the officer and not the other way around, just leaving them laying around. And yet there should be, if there's going to be an issue, then there should be, in fact, specialty restraint items designed just for the elderly. Yes, with that. On the scene. Right there. To restrain them, and then it's not going to pose no problem of needing to chase her. She was, in fact, chased. That wouldn't have been an issue either. What type of, dear viewers out there, to think creatively, yes, scientifically as well, right? It helps to be above the rest with that and thinking on your own end, because think a challenge through for even saving the lives of the elderly is for me to ask you, dear viewers, what type of restraint items would work placed in the back of police cars, vehicles, for the elderly to restrain them? That might, in fact, be needed. Restraining items. And more so other than just handcuffs. I was going to say a chip. The elderly having a chip, right? There's dogs that have chips, right? I might in fact create me, invent me a chip, right? So people know what's going on with me in case I ever get pulled over or anything like that. A chip implanted in the elderly, and then say there being restraining devices that can read that chip just in case if something goes wrong. Everything is recorded, right? In a database for even law and attorneys if there's ever any issues needed, such as a lawsuit or anything. A chip embedded within the elderly, the restraining devices that go along with that, right? Those two, in fact, don't go together, and yet they do fit, because to have a chip implanted, right, within you is to say that sort of thing can watch everything, right, despite it being within your body. Technology is recorded, I'm saying, right? And yet for officers, say the police departments and all the rest, FBI and all of them, right, have restraining devices for the elderly, and were even those two, the chip and the restraining devices for the elderly, where you pair them, because even you pair Bluetooth, right, that sort of thing will more in fact work in case of something goes wrong. Outside of just the body cams, see, the body cams is in fact good, right? But I think not everybody agrees with me on this, but I think humans should in fact have chips. We should in fact all have chips when it comes to these stops, police stops and all the rest, because it's readily available. The information, I'm saying. Cameras, body cams, they pick up all the rest, right? You see stuff in court and all the rest comes later, where the footage and all that comes later. But they have a chip, and then you have where say you have a chip embedded in you, and then there's a restraining, even handcuffs, right? Say with even that, the scenario playing out where everything's recorded, it's just more quicker. Chips are, because that goes right to a database, just like tapes, body cams, whatever, right? But a chip is more advanced and sane. I don't know. Let me think about that. It's not too much of a hassle, and it's not even too much work, with that being well thought out. Once again, there's a lot of people that don't like chips and all the rest. I get it. And yet it would in fact save lives with that. Because even chips could help to rid certain medical issues that pose problems for people, where you embed a chip in the body and yet it regulates the whole body, where you possibly wouldn't even need medication. You see where I'm going with this? Chips are more advanced, because even chips can help control certain bodily organs and all the rest. It's all computerized, right? That's a video for another day. So yeah, that's all to be said about that one. Because see, even the kidneys, like, yeah, you have kidneys where people have kidney diseases and all the rest, right? Stevie Wonder, that's Janet Jackson's cousin, Stevie Wonder is, right? I knew about that situation before it came out, about, yeah, when you got kidney issues and all the rest, and then you need transplants and all the rest, right? Is to say, even dialysis, the dialysis centers could be replaced, where there could be in fact home units within your home, where you wouldn't have to drive to a dialysis center, right? There could be a nurse or whatever on hand for that at your home, right? But even a chip embedded in a body, because see, a chip is able to regulate. Once you got, see, that's more likely going to be the future, and the outlook of the future is chips coming to a point where even they replace medications. I can see that coming, because see, to know that you are to take a medication, listen to me where I'm going with this. To know that you are, say, elderly or whatever, taking medication is to say you got to give that sort of thing time. Medication. I take it, I'm elderly, I take the medication, I got to give it time to travel through the blood vessels and all the rest, right? Uh, and yet, I was gonna say blood vessels have burst by some when they've taken too much medications, right? Certain tragedies do happen, right? But to know that I'm taking a medication to say I gotta give it time is to say I gotta give it time, right? And yet, with a chip embedded, is to say there's much more further and deeper I'm going in explanation with this. Where one day the body will more than likely live off itself. I don't know why I can see that 20 years from now. The human body being able to live off of itself despite of people having uh medical issues and all the rest, right? Because see, a chip will be able to do what pills are incapable of doing. Remember, people's conditions and disorders and all the rest, that comes from a dysregulation within the body. Nothing within the body, despite the body say being unhealthy, or even if you got a healthy body and yet your body is malfunctioning sometimes, the brain can't fully override that. The brain just operates, right? And yet some people are normal and yet they have issues where there's imbalances sometimes, right? And yet to place a chip there is for everything to be regulated, because that's computerized. And even you could possibly control levels from outside of the body. Do you get that? Through the chip. Let me see. If somebody has Alzheimer's, some say Alzheimer's, I say Alzheimer's, right? If somebody has that and they're living with that, right? That's to say there's brain progression in that, as in a decaying process, right? How would a chip be able to help in that? Would the chip be able to slow down the evolving of mental decay? Consider that. Not everybody is able to think as far as advanced as I am, which is why I'm with Discovery as well. Because see, if a person has dementia, right? If I have that, or if I have anything where, say, my mind is quickly or slowly decaying, right? There's a speeding up process of that where I start forgetting and I walk out the house and I don't know where I'm at. I don't even know who I am as I'm walking down the street. That's to say, even chips could help with that, as in slow down the process, because to place something within the body is to say that chip is going to more than likely slow down not only the mental processes, but to how the brain operates, almost like a generator in a sense. Does that make sense? What else could a chip help with? Yeah, because see, kidneys, oftentimes that has to do with a filtering process. The kidneys, right, which is how kidneys can in fact shut down, right? People get all type of issues. People have kidney stones and all the rest, right? That's to say that there's neutralization that needs to be within the body, and yet it's not there, right? Because everything is dysregulated, right? And yet, what if there was a chip that could be invented, which regulates everything within the body, so your body wouldn't have to progress as fast with kidney disease, or if at all, where it even slows everything down, where it neutralizes everything in your body, the chip, where you wouldn't even need dialysis, and you would be able to live and progress and be stronger and health. Sometimes it helps to have an open mind in place of having a closed mind. I'm saying some people don't even agree with chips, and they don't understand how deep and far it can go on a level of sciences or even curing cancer. Because see, cancer more likely could be cured by a chip. Cancer more likely could be cured by a chip. Maybe that's my next video, right? It's not a lot of time. But to know that cancer is in fact normal, it is in fact normal, right? Despite it causing death. It consists of the formation of replicating. The replicating. If cells replicate too much, that's to say cancer will in fact be there awaiting you, right? And yet with a chip implanted in the body, more than likely could stop that. Does that make sense? A chip implanted into a human's body more than likely can stop that, because that's a unit there. A chip, to see computerized devices and everything else planted wherever, even outside the body, to have a recording nature with that, as in you're being able to see that whatever chip, anything you put anything recording with that, right, as in it maintaining levels within the body, right, to keep humans evolving, right. It's to say a chip will more than likely help prevent the replication of human cells, which is how cancer gets started to begin with. I have yet to hear anybody mention what I'm saying. I'm about to record this in the next video. Let me get to where we're at. We're in fact on unlocked. No, we're not on unlocked episodes. We're in fact on investigationdiscovery.com. The ID logo, in fact, is in the far left corner, right? Live now, Lone Star Justice. Unlocked episodes. It's getting real trippy, y'all. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy wasn't a bad looking guy. I was gonna say something. I don't mince words. On last night, to receive an audio visual preview, you would in fact click the play button. You're going to in fact hear as well as see. Right within here, clicking this. You can add to watch later by clicking that plus sign. My words is everywhere. Everybody notice that I'm messing up because I'm about to get to this next video, what I just stated. I'm trying to hold that. My brain is divided. I'm trying to hold that to make sure I don't forget what I just told you guys about that chip and cancer. I got that locked in one side of my brain while I'm trying to focus on this, because I don't want to forget. That's my next video. But yes, once again, to receive an audio visual preview is to click the play button. To add, you can watch later. You got to click the plus sign for that. That's why my words are jumbled. I don't want to forget that. So I'm going to speed up with this so I can get to it. To gain access, you in fact provide your provider, as in who you're subscribed to gain access, because this right here is all exclusive. It's how you get in. Saying who you are with and why. Recommended for you. Shouts out to Lieutenant Jokinda as well as Paula. Evil lives here. All this. investigationdiscovery.com. I'm trying to make sure I got this. I'm going to focus. See, that's another conversation. Most people don't know that I use both sides of my brain. They don't know that. And everything. Some people use more of one side of the brain more than the other side, as in some people are more left dominant or more right dominant. I use my full brain when doing things. So while I'm sitting here talking, and while I just messed up a little bit ago, because once again I'm focused on that next video of cancer and the chip, as well as I'm sitting here also focused on this. So words are going to jumble a bit, right? ID Go Original Series for you. I'm just saving on one side of my brain as I continue through on the other side of my brain. The crime feed. To gain access to the crime feed is a click right within here. You would in fact, yes, be driven to the outside. Crimefeed.com. Casey Anthony. To receive a newsletter is a type your email address in and click next. I'm in fact sitting on that next button, but that's in fact what you will receive by doing that sort of thing. And it's interesting with me using my whole brain at everything that it is I do, right? It's interesting because I can literally feel when I wanna do something next, like this next video that's coming, pointing to cancer, right, and the chip. I can literally feel myself holding that information on one side of my brain as I'm talking to you with the other side. That doesn't make sense, and yet it does. Because it's like I'm storing the information, and it's like my brain, like I can feel it. I can literally feel it in sensation, as in physically, I can feel myself holding that information there as I talk from the other side of my brain. That's whole brain. Not everybody will get it. Sounds unnatural, I know. I'm a weirdo. That's why I'm with Discovery. So let me know what you think and feel. about the video. Leave the opinions in the comment below. Have a nice day. I'll in fact enjoy mine as well, dear viewer. I'm gone.